Hello, my name is Charlie Herman, and today I'm going to be presenting on the Battle of Gaugamela. So what this battle all starts with is kind of Alexander the Great's campaign, where he has the goal to conquer all of Persia. This starts in 336 BCE, when him and his army started their campaign, leaving their home and to not come back until they conquer all of Persia. Comes right after the death of Alexander's father. At the beginning of this campaign, Alexander the Great won 3 battles against the Persians in Garnicus, Halicarnassus, and Issus. And these 3 battles really showed Darius, the king of Persia, really the strength of Alexander and how he may have underestimated Alexander. In the Battle of Issus, Alexander the Great captures Darius's family, and in this time we see Darius resorting to attempting to use peace and diplomacy to try to get Alexander to stop his attacks. In his peace treaty that he sends to Alexander, he offers him half of the kingdom as well, and many more things for Alexander in return for the fight to stop. And so in theory, this is an extremely generous offer from Darius. However, Alexander declines it, as his main goal is really truly to only conquer all of Persia and nothing else. And then Alexander and his army continue to go south along the Mediterranean, capturing Egypt and many other cities and city-states with ease, as those city-states see Persia and Darius's acts as mainly hostile, and so they're asking more to be free, and they see Alexander's capture simply not as any threat to them, but kind of as that they're joining this new, maybe greater, under a greater leader. And so in the lead up to the battle, so after Alexander has conquered these cities, his next goal is to try to conquer Babylon. He believes that this will be the next best step that he needs for his conquering of Persia. And so they travel along northern Mesopotamia, along the coast, making sure that they are using the coast as a way for protection and finding the cities that can give them food and rest. However, Darius becomes aware of Alexander's plans, and moves up, and as he sees that and burns along many of the cities along the Euphrates, which is the southern river of Mesopotamia, and because that's where Alexander originally was going to come through towards Babylon. And so as a result, Alexander and his army take the northern route, and are attempting to pass to the eastern side of the Tigris. In attempts to try to stop this, Darius sends a group led by one of his generals, Mazaeus, to try to stop Alexander and his army at the eastern crossing of the northern crossing of the Tigris. However, it's unsuccessful, as Alexander's army scares away the Persians and they successfully cross. As a result of Darius knowing that there is kind of this undeniable battle, he sets up camp in Gaugamela, where Alexander realizes that if he can win this battle, he'll be able to gain control of more than just Babylon and essentially be kind of a decisive victory in allowing him to control all of Persia. So in Darius's preparations for this battle, there's kind of a lot of uncertainty historically. There's many estimates from the amount of people that are men that Darius has for this battle. There's estimates as low as 50,000 to as high as 100,000, a million men, with many chariots, much more. His army is extremely powerful. They have really sharp spears and much more, and they're really just a brutally powerful, overwhelmingly large armed forces. And in Gaugamela, to kind of create a tactical advantage, he levels the fields to maximize the usefulness of his chariots so that there isn't many obstructions, and so in this fight he would be able to use his chariots and just send them along the path easily when they wouldn't be stopped. Because of this size, Darius's army was not really well fed or rested. Especially, I'll talk about it more later on at the beginning of the battle, but there's kind of this fear that Alexander is going to attack at night, and so Darius doesn't really allow his soldiers to kind of rest, in contrast to what we'll see from Alexander. And right before the battle, when Alexander is nearing Gaugamela, Darius sends a scouting group to Alexander's camp. These men were then captured, and many of them did not hesitate to tell Alexander Darius's plans and preparations, which proved to be helpful for Alexander. On the other hand, we have Alexander the Great's preparations. So he had an army of around 40,000. So if we look at the range, and that's pretty certain, and it's well known that they were definitely outnumbered by the Persians and Darius's army. And so this battle is seemingly, it seems as if they would be the underdogs. And so, as I was talking about before, the Persians were worried about a night attack. Lots of this comes from Alexander being advised by a second-hand man to consider attacking at night. However, Alexander really believed in the importance of letting his army rest, and they were at this tactical advantage as they had camp set up on a hill above the battleground so they could see most of the battleground, and they were also in this tactical advantage where they couldn't really be attacked by the Persians easily on this camp, and so the Persians had to wait for them, and so Alexander and the Macedonians really had a tactical advantage of they were going to bring the fight to the Persians instead of the other way around, which is really helpful for having this smaller army. And so, like I said before the day of battle, Alexander let his army rest, and it's said that Alexander had overslept the day of battle, which kind of just shows again this importance of rest in comparison to what we saw from the Persians. And so finally we have the battle, and so as you saw before, there was this graphic of kind of the attacking strategies of the two. So the battle begins, and so for Alexander the Great and the Macedonians, they're really well reinforced on their flanks and kind of have a concaved it's almost like a backward C or a little oval or half of an oval, which kind of protects the center and really allows them to have strength on the flanks so that they aren't able to be flanked very well or easily, and so this reinforcement proves helpful later. However, Alexander really brings the majority of his men who aren't on the flanks towards the right of the battlefield, towards their right and the left of the Persians, to avoid and to get out of this cleared land that I talked about earlier that Darius had set up for his chariots. And so this means that the left Macedonian flank is confronted by a large group of men, and they proved to be slightly overwhelmed. And on the contrary, the left and the same thing, because most of the Macedonian fleet had gone towards their right or the left of the Persians. The Persian left flank was seen with a lot of men, but the Macedonian flank was really hit by a strong part of Darius's army. However, they're able to hold on, and Alexander's left flank really kind of created this trap for Darius, where because they saw this opening down the middle, Darius sent his chariots down the middle, and this was a trap set by the Macedonians and Alexander, where they allowed the chariots to come through, and once they were through, they started attacking them from all sides and easily defeated them. And so, however, this also proved really detrimental, not only the loss of the chariots for the Persians, but it also exposed the Persian center as the chariots were blocking it. And so the flank of the Macedonians and Alexander towards the right really allowed them to sneak back in towards the center, and get a direct line at Darius. And so what is told is that Alexander attacks Darius. He throws a spear at him and misses him, and barely misses him. However, Darius sees this, realizes that the battle is mainly lost, and flees. And then his many, many men follow. And this is really the turning point to where Alexander the Great takes control of the Persian Empire, and now is essentially the king. It hasn't been an official defeat, but he now controls the majority of the land and will continue on later in the future. Thank you very much. I hope you learned a lot, and yes, I will see you in class.